Hello, everybody, and welcome to Spark Animation. My name is Dean Hamer, and I'm coming to you over Zoom from the beautiful island of Hawaii. And I'm an animator and a filmmaker and an activist. And I'm very pleased to be here to introduce all of you to Ashton Blyth, who is the winner of a special mention for his student animation. And we're here to talk a little bit about why he made the film and what it's about and all of that type of good stuff. So welcome, Ashton.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a huge fan of your films.
Thank you very much. Tell us the name of your film and give us the elevator pitch, the one sentence description of what it's all about.
So the film's called Felt Right Then, Feels Right Now, and it's a traditional hand-drawn animation that's based on the memory of me trying on my dad's boxers at age 8 before going to Brownies. But I don't know if they have it over in Hawaii, but it's kind of an after-school program for girls, but kind of I guess teach them life skills and stuff, and it's a way for them to get together. They can develop through rainbows, brownies, and then on to Girl Guides. But it was something that I attended for probably only a few short months before switching to be the first girl in Boys Brigade of my local Boys Brigade.
Oh, how wonderful. And that's not part of the film, but it fits very well.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. What inspired you to make a film about that particular experience? What was your motivation?
Well, I was in my final year at Staffordshire University, and I spent half my degree doing it over Zoom in the pandemic. So it was a case of my practice was mainly large scale installations and sculptures, and it was having to adapt to then losing the studio space and having to work from my bedroom essentially. That led to me changing my practice to digital. So I started that by creating the progressive tube map, which was inspired by the designs of Henry Beck of the London Underground. But so that's contained all known gender identities and sexualities and asexualities at the time, all put into an accessible format. So that was my first project digitally. And then it came to another project, came to my second half of the year, and I was like, what do I do next? And my housemate at the time was a final year animation student, specializing in stop motion. So I was kind of watching him work and thinking, but sure, I could do that. Yeah, that's something I could do for a project. And I had a few ideas that I wanted to transcribe using film somehow. But obviously, with the university's kind of like locations being closed and stuff, that wasn't possible to actually make films of. But I could make an animation of it from my bedroom. So that led to me. I went home for a weekend and filmed both my little sister and myself as live references to create the final animation.
And tell me about the sort of the plot of the film, how you came on. It's a very simple design, which I think is well suited for short films, especially. But how did you could have told a much longer story, obviously. You could have given more backstory or reaction, but it's just one person at two different points in time. How did you come up with that sort of structural?
Well, part of that was due to the fact of a time issue. I had only a few short months really to create it before I had my end of year graduation show for it. But and then also it being my first experience with animation, that was kind of it was a whole new process for me. So it was kind of trying to get to grips with that and the process of shooting and editing and stuff. But this was I had a few ideas in mind. Ideally, I was hoping to create several animations for a final year show, and in the end, I was like, no, I'm not going to manage that. I can manage one just about in the nick of time, but so that's why I only ended up being so short in the end. But so yeah, the memories is of me at age 8, but I do plan to hopefully do like lots of kind of short films to hopefully create a feature length film of lots of different points in time in my life that I feel have contributed to me understanding my own gender identity and figuring out that I was trans.
Have you, done other work on trans themes? Has that permeated other of your body of work?
Yeah, so my whole art practice is pretty much about gender identity and sexuality and personal identity. So that started when it was just before I started Art Foundation, which was after I finished my A level. So at age 18, that I came out as transgender. So I finished the first 2 years of college, I finished that as Alyssa. And over the summer, I then came back to the same college as Ashton. In space of 2 weeks of coming out, I'd cut my hair off, and legally changed my name and started afresh. So then during foundation, I did a large project called Reflections of Me, that was me exploring my own gender identity and childhood and looking at the mirror comparison of what I could have looked like had I been born a boy and grown up a boy. And created this large scale installation that was half a girl's room, half a boy's room, with large A1 charcoal drawings of portraits of myself growing up, both as a girl and a boy, and etching plates, so A4 piece of perspex that I'd etched images of myself into. There was about 20 of them. And then I think there was over 50 A6 monoprints as well of myself, either as a girl or boy. So it was a pretty substantial project to try and get done and create this installation.
Yeah.
But when I got to university, I realized that, so everyone's going to find out I'm trans when I start making work, presumably, that is about myself and about gender. So, I started coming out to people in small groups who, it was a relief to see they're all shocked, but, also very accepting. And then it turned out I ended up starting making work about gender and sexuality and religion from an outside perspective and not including myself. So I didn't actually need to come out at that point. But so I looked at that from an outside perspective. I created lots of participatory installations and sculptures that discuss the fact of how contemporary society doesn't allow for people who don't fit into the binary. You fill in forms at doctors, university, passport forms. It's, are you male? Are you female? Are you Mr., Mrs., Miss, Doctor? It doesn't allow for MX, for someone who doesn't want to identify as one or the other, or for non-binary and stuff. And it's all very restrictive. So I was making artwork about essentially how that felt for people, including myself, really, even though I'd consider myself quite binary in as far as trans goes, but it was much more of a female to male transition, and very much just male, I guess.
Overall, would you say your current environment is supportive, unsupportive?
Very supportive.
Evolving? Very supportive. That's good.
Yeah. No, I live at home with my family while I'm studying, and my little sister was, I think she was 3.5 at the time. But I came out, and it was only last week she brought up the fact that she could still remember that it was we're on the beach on holiday. And she said, I asked you to pass me something, and I said, can you pass me that, Alyssa? And you said that it's Ashton now. And I said, okay. And she still remembers that. She doesn't remember much from that age. She says that, but I can remember that really clearly, that memory when you said that you were Ashton and we were going to call you Ashton now.
Tell me about the choice of names. It all sounds very BBC-ish to me.
That was very much, I went through looking at several names, because obviously it's a unique thing to get to choose your own name.
Yes, that's
really
true.
But we discussing with my parents, we settled on the fact of keeping it an A, really, but made it easier for kind of doctor's forms and easier for in terms of where I was still having to receive things through that would be addressed to A Blythe, but not necessarily to Ashton Blythe.
Right.
But that's, I guess, less hard hitting on your mental health when it's still the first initial is still the same.
Right.
When a lot of postage is just to your initial rather
Right.
than to full name. But because I suggested Edward was one of the suggestions, but my dad doesn't have a middle name, and he was very jealous of that in primary school and would tell people that his middle name was Edward. So that was one of them. And Casey actually came up as a first name, but that's ended up as a middle name. Wasn't too keen on I wasn't too keen on Ashley originally as being more gender neutral and stuff, but I quite liked Ashton as being, but even though it is still gender neutral, more so in America than in the UK, but you'd hear of girls being called Ashton. You don't really hear that much in the UK, so it is much more of a I'd go by Ashton rather than Ash, because at the start where I'd still get misgenders, Ash would usually be assumed, but oh, that's short for Ashley, they're a girl.
Right.
Whereas Ashton, there's much less kind of mistakes made with that.
Can you explain for viewers a little bit about the decision to focus this film as a sort of central element in your life on the issue of dressing and appearance? And I ask this because as a gay guy, but cisgendered, I think it was always easy for me to understand, oh, my difference is in my desire. It's who I want to be with. That's what sets me aside from straight dudes, basically. I think it's not always as easy to understand what are trans people, I don't want to say looking for, but what is the difference that they feel? Why is wearing boxer shorts, for example, something that's really very important?
I mean, part of the importance of this particular memory was when I came out to my parents. That was one of the things that sold it to them isn't the right term, but I guess
explain. I think is a fine word.
That's better. Explain. But it was that was one of the things. But I talked about this memory of sneaking into their room and taking dad's boxes and trying them on, and then wearing them to go to Brownies, but then spending the whole time at Brownies paranoid that someone could tell I was wearing boxes, and I really regretted it. Like I can still kind of imagine that feeling there. And then I remember hearing some girls laughing. I was like, oh God, like could they see them? Like are they laughing at me because of that? Like do they realize something's wrong with me?
Right.
And stuff. But I think for me, like I wore a lot of boys' clothes growing up. I was very much a tomboy. And stuff like I very much resonated with your film A Place in the Middle with Oho, who was Mahu, and that acceptance of being a boy as well as being a girl and stuff. And I kind of wish I'd had that acceptance at that young age to very much present as a boy as well as I think childhood would have been much easier for me, and understanding who I was at a younger age, where I didn't really, where I was telling my parents it was a case of I was like, when I think about it, I've never felt like a girl. I can't remember necessarily really understanding why I had to stand in the girls' line when the class was separated. But I always had attraction to boys' clothes. I had this jacket I loved that was my Skull Kid jacket, and was covered in tiny hand drawn skulls that I loved, and my Scooby Doo shorts that were my favorite thing ever and stuff. And boys' pajamas, Batman pajamas with a detachable cape that I loved. Wanting to be Peter Pan and not Tinkerbell. I had a Peter Pan costume and a Captain Hook costume, but not Tinkerbell, like all the other girls in my class. I had boy dress-up costumes. I dressed up as boys that I admired. Harry Potter. I spent 6 months when I was 4 only answering to Harry. If that's not your biggest clue, I don't know what is.
Well, I think it is. I think that's a really great explanation. It makes me laugh because we made a more recent film called The Rogers, which is about a group of trans men in Samoa in the Pacific. And they're
Right.
sort of an organized group. But there's a wonderful story from one of the trans men talking about how his father um, made him said, if you want to be a man, you've got to prove you're a man and you've got to go out and do all this man stuff, chopping down coconut trees and husking things and everything. And then when he passed on, the way he signaled to his now son that was the case was he left him all of his boxer shorts. So he got in the hair at all of his father's boxer shorts. At the time I thought that's odd, but now I can kind of understand it.
It's
So
yeah, it's a
tell
nice
us what your
sentiment as much as you probably won't want to wear them.
it's a great moment. Tell us what your future plans are, what you're working on, what you're hoping to work on.
Well, currently I'm on a master's course at Central St Martin's at University of the Arts London, doing a fine art course there. Yes, I'm still, I don't know what I want to do with my project at the moment, but I'm thinking with how well received Felt Right Then Feels Right Now has been, like I couldn't imagine that it would be this well received, like at all. From making that in my bedroom and stuff, and then thought, why don't I submit it to some competitions where my housemate was submitting his, and it's like you should do that. I was like, okay, nothing will probably come of it, but all right, I'll do it. And then it's been amazingly received. But that's kind of making me want to. I do want to make more animations, and I want to continue to kind of tell tell stories of the moments in my life that I know other people will resonate with. You don't necessarily have to be trans to resonate with a child's feelings of nerves and wonder about how they'll be accepted in the world and stuff. I think everyone can resonate with that somehow about something in their life, that feeling of wanting to be accepted and
Great.
scared about not. And I guess I want to transcribe more of those moments, like the experiences of coming out, the first haircut, but also looking at childhood, detesting dresses, first days at school, the experience of periods in men's toilets. I used to have to hide tampons in my socks because nobody who looks like a guy wants to kind of get to the front of a till, pull their wallet out, and tampons fall on the floor.
Right.
Stuff, and then just the experience of grossness of men's toilets anyway, and that, and I'm very thankful for testosterone having gotten rid of that. But that as well, getting the experience of transitioning, hormones. I've been on a waiting list for 5 years to go through the NHS. Having heard nothing, I ended up having to go private to get hormones, and I've been working full time in the summers between my degree to save for top surgery and stuff. So I guess I want to capture a lot of those moments, but I know a lot of people can resonate with, and I think animation's a great way to have other people look at it and see themselves in it compared to real life film. It's easier to project yourself onto an animated character than onto a real life person, I feel, and resonate with them.
Yes, absolutely. Well, welcome to the wonderful field of animation. As you discovered, it does take I don't animate myself. I'm a director, and I've always made live action films. But the power of animation, as you said, is it can be whatever you want it to be, and so it can be exactly the way it should be, without having to worry about human beings. Exactly. So that's a very powerful thing, and I think your films will continue to resonate with people. I think it's an issue that people are very sort of curious about, and that people are evolving on very rapidly, which is a good thing. And
Yeah.
art and producing culture is a big part of that train.
Mm.
That change. I'm absolutely convinced of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations on your award. It's well
Thank you
deserved. I'm
very
sure
much.
we'll go on to many more awards, and it will be seen by many people. And congratulations on making such a short piece. I think there's a lot of power in short pieces, and so all the best to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me. It's been great talking to you.
Same here.